Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by this quarter's sponsor, Playground, the all-in-one childcare management software. We're all about managing monkeys and saving you time at your center. With this platform, you can. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at tryplayground.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Welcome back, everybody. I am so glad that you are joining us with Childcare Conversations. And today's conversation is really, it's going to be about you, but we're going to talk with Annette Eberhart out of Florida. She is bringing some sunny weather with us today, or it could be raining. It is Florida in the summer, so, who knows what we've got going on there. So if you happen to be up north, if you're in Canada, or you are one of the other 124 countries listening, we are so glad that you've joined us this week. And Annette, tell everybody a little bit how you found yourself in early childcare and your personal mission currently, and we'll just go from there.
Well, thank you, Kate. I am so happy to be here as a guest. I am Annette Eberhart. I am the owner and founder of Kids R Us Best Practices, where I bring together my work as a family child care program owner, author, speaker, and advocate to support educators and promote best practices in early childhood. I think that sharing my lived experiences has also brought awareness to the value and impact of family childcare. I've been a family childcare program owner for 19 years in August. And I would say within the last decade, I've really stepped out into leadership roles. I thought it was important for educators to start being more a part of the conversations that are impacting and shaping our field. And one of the things that I really think is important as educators, leaders, is to understand the importance of self-care and overall wellness. And I started to realize that in order for us to continue to show up and do the work that we do and lead others, we have to first be able to lead ourselves.
Okay, so real quick, tell me a little bit about what self-care means to you, because I will tell you what I thought self-care was prior to 2020, and even more prior to 2021, where, my life hit an oh shit bump. What does that mean to you? Because I don't want to have everybody assuming that you and I are talking about the same thing, because what I thought it was before 2020 and what I realize it is for me now, which again, part of that might be age. Part of that may also be just having a real open discussion about it, because I think that, at least my experience was, I heard the term, I saw people do things they called self-care on social media, and after a while, it felt like an obligation to me. So what does self-care mean in your definition as we move this conversation forward?
The question. Wellness to me, or self-care, is really taking care of you as an individual inside, because when we feel good and we are cared for inside, it shows. It shows in how we show up. It shows in how we treat people.
So when you mean inside, are you talking about like what I eat?
It could be what you eat, what you think. What we eat and what we think is what we project. So I think that it's important to understand who you are. A lot of us show up every day as people expect us to, or what outside influences say we should be, or how we should be. And we don't often sit with ourselves and really think about who we are. Think about how many people have relationships or children, and our jobs as educators. We show up for our parents, we show up for our children. We just give out. And we never really reel it back in and say, hey, what about me? I forgot. I have been a mother. This is my first time living alone and I'm seasoned. I'm not going to tell y'all how seasoned I am. But I've never lived by myself. You know, you're in relationships and you're raising children. And, you know, how often do you sit back and say what it is that you really like to do or think about some of the things you like to do to make you happy? You know, I know another thing that was self-care, wellness for me, setting boundaries in this field. It's yes, 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 right? We always please and, you know, so it's really about tapping into who you are as an individual first. And it can look
Okay.
like,
So I'm going to interrupt, which,
okay,
I do frequently. So, because you said something that, again, it changes my frame of reference to even my own perception of self care, which I feel like I've done an awful lot of work on in the last 5 years. But I don't think I would have ever put boundaries as self-care, even though I think that is the number one thing that I've changed in the last 5 years is really firm boundaries. And even though, and it's funny because it's not just work and it's not just home, right? Like I
absolutely.
think a lot of times, like I go to workshops, I'd even teach workshops on how to say no to a parent or how to say no to a staff person, but I wasn't practicing it myself at home or in my personal life, right? So like it wasn't
Right,
like I would, what I call helium hand, right? Like I'd be at that parent teacher conference or that parent teacher meeting or some scout meeting or something, right? And they're like, and we need a blah, blah, blah. And then my hand goes up and I'm like, I did not put that up. Like it went up on its own. And I'm like, what am I doing? I specifically said to myself, I'm not
I'm not doing
volunteering for
nothing else.
anything,
Right,
right? And yes, it got easier as I got older because I no longer had 4 young children at home, right? So it was a lot easier to
right.
say no. But I still found myself wanting to say yes, but yet trying to be really realistic about how much time do I really have and why am I saying yes? Right.
Right,
So, like, to me, boundaries is more than just a yes or a no. It's a why the yes. Am I saying yes because it's a great business opportunity? Am I saying yes because I'm going to rub elbows with the right people? Am I
right,
saying yes because it brings me joy? And then with that, it was like, okay, so it may appear as volunteer, but let's be realistic. Is it volunteer but really work? Is it volunteer and really joy? Or is it volunteer and something else? Right. And so I think for me, that was really, really important, but I hadn't thought of boundaries as self-care. So I
oh
like
yeah,
that. I like that. All
absolutely,
right.
yeah. Because you got to
So
think about,
is
go
there,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, you made a point, like, your why for wanting to raise your hand, volunteer, knowing you probably at capacity, but that need to please, you know, be accepted. A lot of us, you know, pour outwardly with that. So what self-care, I think it should be like reel that energy in. You know, all that we serve and want to give to others, it's wonderful. But what about me? What about you? Right? And we all want to protect our peace. So that's another way of, you know, setting boundaries for yourself and self-care, self-awareness. And a lot of times we don't sit with ourselves long enough to reflect on what we need. So, yeah, you were going to
I
say
think that
something.
is so important. So, Annette, I mean, this may be, and if I'm being too nosy, feel free to tell me. But did you come by this need for wellness and self-care in a way that's probably a pretty good story, or has this been something you've always had that passion for?
It is, it comes through a very good story. I did a uh, autobiography with several other authors, and you have to get that book. It's on my website. It tells my stories for the grandchildren. Um, I was raised in a Islamic community for my younger years into my adult years. This is the first time I've ever shared this, Kate. You getting inside information here. So yeah, and that taught me a lot of discipline, um, lifestyle, you know, the praying 5 times a day, we had a clean diet. Um, so I think that the discipline in that space kind of propelled me into this lifestyle. Once I came out of that space, I did gravitate, you know, towards some other habits. But overall, I always had the desire to want to be well, and I think a lot of life's experiences, which is why I lead with that when I'm speaking, has brought me to this space through meditation, reflecting. I have been a pescatarian, if you want to get into the titles, vegetarian, plant based, and it's all for the sake of just wanting to have longevity and good life, right? Do I struggle? Absolutely. A1C is high right now. So it's a
I
constant
do.
yeah, it's a constant battle with just wanting to have that good ebb and flow. And it's practice. But I will say it's discipline and consistency, and you have to want to implement changes in your life in order to see results. And a lot of times we make excuses.
You know what? You said something, and I just want, I'm hoping people heard you, because it's not just your job. It's not just your personal health. You're bringing in, that culture, that history you were raised in, and it does absolutely impact who you are,
Yes,
regardless of how seasoned you are or aren't. Because you toss on 5.5 decades, which is, I'm going to tell them how seasoned I am, right? So after 5.5 decades, I can go back, and I do joke about, well, yeah, I bring a casserole to everything because, that's just what a good Midwest Methodist does. Right. And, there's those kinds of things that, because of the way, I can't even say I was raised, because, in my family, I was an only child, and we all had different faiths, which was
right.
entirely like, my faith was wherever my best friend or boyfriend was, like, um, I'm going to own that. Right. And so, I had a very different version of kind of, a spiritual path, because I'm not sure I would call it that.
Okay.
It was a something. And I'm not sure discipline ever went with it, but we will. But as I've
No.
gotten older, see, I cracked you up. As I've gotten older, again, that's part of that whole self-care for me, was that balance, right? Like, so
Right,
if you've got a,
absolutely.
if you're listening to this and you've ever had somebody talk to you as, oh, I've had a life coach, or my life coach this, or my life coach that. I mean, I had my first life coach at 23. I will tell you, I have never had a balanced circle. So my circle struggles and has struggled forever. And so,
Mhm.
when you hear people talk about self-care, you know Annette's bringing to us and reminding us about the physical aspect, but that
Right.
some of that physical for you actually manifested through, even your spiritual base, maybe not
Yes,
where you currently are, but you were exposed. And a lot of us are exposed to things as kids, and then when we get to be grown up age, we rebel a little, or a lot. And then at some point in time, something might remind us, hey, you are not that age you used to be. So stop acting like an
absolutely.
18-year-old, because you are not an 18-year-old. And I'm going to show you, my body's going to prove to you that you are not an 18-year-old.
Yes.
And so so I'm like going, yeah, I got some wellness stories, but I'm not sure that they are appropriate for this venue. Um,
I
but
love it.
what you've shared is really, really important. And the longevity piece, I mean, but let's
Yes,
be realistic. I mean, so this is my new current soapbox, and I'm just going to share it. And I'd love to get your feedback, because you
sure.
mentioned 19 years as a family child care provider. And in a lot of industries, we go 20 years is retirement, right? Woohoo, you did a great job. To the point where if you graduate high school at 18, you go off to the military, 38, you've done your 20 years. You
Right.
can go get a 4-year degree, go start another career, and still go another 20 years before you actually get to what most people consider retirement age, right? 62 to 65. And then, depending on your family, you might still have another 30 years. My great grandmother was in her late 90s. My grandmother was in her late 80s. So if I only looked at my career as that I could have one, I mean, let's do the math
Mm,
on that, right? Like, am I going, that would be like 80 years. My grandmother, like for my grandmother, it would have been 80, my great
right.
grandmother years, right? So it's like, okay. let's break this up into, right? And so somehow in our industry, we make people feel like maybe they haven't earned the gold medal or the gold star if they haven't put in at least 20 years.
20
And I
years.
don't get that, right? Like I don't get why we think that. So if you're talking to somebody and you're hearing them use phrases that make you go, okay, she's identifying being burnt out or, overwhelmed or that kind of stuff, what would you say to somebody who is an in-home provider who's got some of those feelings? Maybe they haven't figured out the whole saying no, setting boundaries. What would you say to I'm going to phrase this, to any early
Anybody.
learning professional who is kind of struggling? I mean, did they need to go 19 years or what's your thought on that?
Well, what I will say and what I do say is to really take stock in where you are now and where you would like to go. It doesn't, just because we are in this field, I have come across so many different educators with so many skills outside of just educating children, right? But we are afraid, some of them are afraid to step outside of what they know to be secure for them in order to start something new. And it's okay to start over. It's okay to fail and have to start again. If you can be an educator for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you can do anything because we face so many challenges. You know what I mean? It's so diverse in this field. You really can do anything, but we are so accustomed to just going through the motions every single day without really sitting down and taking a few deep breaths and really think about where it is you'd like to go and what it is that you like to do. What are you good at? And how many of us really have time unless you make that time because we're always what? Working. That's why I'm up at 4 in the morning. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. And I know it sounds crazy. And I also get this is not for everybody. But because I'm a family child care home provider, I operate a 24-hour family child care program. It's the only time I get peace of mind. So that time of the day is, it is so quiet. I do meditation. I do journaling. That is my, I work out after that. That's the time for me to invest in myself so that I can continue to be here for the children and families that I serve and my community and my educators, because a lot of them are not boisterous and, resilient to be able to step outside of the classroom and have these conversations and, speak about the changes that need to happen. So I'm that one. I'm one of the ones that is open to do that. And I think it's important. But don't ever feel like you're stuck. You are not stuck.
Hopefully, folks will go check out all of Annette's contact information, all of her resources on the links in the show notes, because she is absolutely a role model to the next generation, a role model to the current generation. Because to me, I think that those of us who are seasoned need to actually kind of maybe pause, rewind this episode, and listen to some of the discipline that you've already shared that may not have stuck. Because as somebody I might get up between 4 and 5, but I get up and have my coffee and I get up and do a little doom scrolling. And then by like 6 o'clock, I'm at the computer. Like I have the good intention to.
Right.
But if you were talking to, let's say, someone like me, right? Not quite a workaholic, but maybe not quite as disciplined as I maybe could be. What's a great place for somebody to start who's starting to think about, okay, maybe I need to implement something related to Annette's wellness conversation? Hey, that hit home because I know I'm not doing that. Where would you suggest that people start?
Well, I have a what I like to call my wellness recipe. So it could be physical. So if you're not physical, maybe you start getting active, right?
But what does that look like? I mean, I'm a
walk,
child care employee. I'm active all the time.
No, not as active as you need to be. There are certain muscles that we don't even use, right, for years. But no, it could be something, a walk during lunch, or maybe after dinner. It can be something as small as, when you are dealing with stress or conflict or anything that makes you feel uneasy. We all know what the nervous system does when, we're in that fight or flight type of situation. And it brings on a lot of stress, and stress brings on illness if we don't take care of it. So sometimes you have to think beyond what's right here and look deeper into how our actions impact how we are in long term, right? So walking could be one thing that you can implement that is physical if you're not active already. I'm not saying go out and get a gym membership right away, but maybe that's something we could work towards. It could be, like I said, taking a deep breath, walking away from a situation, thinking about how you can better deal with conflict as opposed to going from 0 to 100. I used to be that person, believe it or not. And when I share that, people are like, you're so calm. I can't believe it. Yeah, I can be this calm, but there's always the other side. You have to have that balance, right? It's just self-control. Even if it's diet, I mean, like I was just saying, I'm plant-based, this, that, and whatever, but it's still hard to maintain a diet that is, a good clean one, right? So maybe practice on taking away the Cabernet at night. And I'm just saying, to help me refine, right? We know
So
what
glad
we
you
need
didn't
to
say
do.
coffee in the morning, because you and I might have ended this call right there. I'm like going, we're done. So
I do that too. So there are some things, it's all about here and what we think about having to make those changes, because that's what it boils down to. The will. We have choice, right?
okay,
You
can
just
can
do
I
it.
push that just a little bit? Because
Sure.
I think it's not just here. I think it's also what we say. Because like one of the things I've caught
Yes.
myself saying that I'm trying really hard to eliminate over the last couple months out of my vocabulary is I'm so old. Because when I meet people who use that phrase who are younger than I am, I have to go, ooh, wait, if you think you're old, and I know I have a grandmother who lived to be a great grandmother who was 40 years older than I am currently.
Wow. That's
Yeah. So
amazing.
when you start to do the math, right? Like, so I could have another 40 years. So does that mean I really want to be old for another 40 years?
Yeah,
No, no, no. So I've really started
it is.
to kind of remove that whole phrase. And I think that, you know, as a man thinketh, right? As a man speaketh, right? Like
That's
what
right.
we say
Has
is
so much.
just
Ooh,
as important. Yes, absolutely. So,
I
but
agree.
it does absolutely start with a mindset shift.
It
And I
does.
know that
Yeah.
that's one of those words everybody uses, but,
Yeah.
I love the practical, the micro commitments that you just shared, because I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's
It's
important.
you have to start small, and then those small things evolve into bigger things because you start feeling better about yourself, right? And you can see that there's actionable steps that you can take to create change. You don't have to stay in the same situation, in the same place. I've never been one to be boxed in. I can't.
So that's probably a great thing for those who are listening who, because Annette's coming at this from an entrepreneurial perspective. So if you're listening and you're a director and you're like, yeah, I've had that director title for over 20 years. I want you to think about why, right? I think that's a great place to start. Why are you still here? Why have you, is it
Absolutely.
is it the families? I mean, is it dedication to other people versus dedication to
To
yourself?
yourself. Yes. So we will sacrifice ourselves for other people in a heartbeat. Don't even think
Absolutely.
about it because we don't even realize that that's what is happening.
Absolutely. So, Annette, tell everybody where they can find you. You also have a podcast. You've got some books out.
Yeah.
So tell folks where they need to find you. It's all going to be in our show notes, but I'm going to let you tell them.
Got you. Got you. So I am actually on all the social media platforms. I'm on Facebook as Annette Little. That's a whole story in itself. Um, I'm on also on Facebook, Best Practices, Kids R Us Best Practices, and Kids R Us Family Childcare. So there's 3 channels on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as Annette Eberhart. I am on Instagram as True Goddess 14 because that I am. And the the podcast is Best Practices Unveiled, and I'm on YouTube at Annette E05. So I'd love for you to connect. www.kidsorus.org. You can find all my publications on the website and on Amazon.
Absolutely. Like I said, all those will be in the show notes. If you don't already follow our newsletter and you have not registered for the newsletter, go to childcareconversations.com, sign up for the newsletter, and we can't wait to see you in a few days.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.